Door breacher, trench sweeper, demon slayer. From Doom's iconic super shotgun through to Gears of War's Gnasher, the shotgun is one of the most popular and versatile weapons in video games, a trusty firearm that packs a devastating punch, particularly in close quarters. But the gaming shotgun that we've come to know and love takes a fair few, shall we say, liberties from its real-world counterparts. Shotguns in games have been vastly over-exaggerated, frequently granting players devastating one-hit kills at close ranges, before becoming as useless as a chocolate teapot at a range of further than just a few dozen meters, which, suffice to say, is not exactly how they work in real life. So I've come here to the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK to chart the differences between a real shotgun and its video game counterpart. In one form or another, the shotgun has been around for the better part of 300 years. In the timeline of firearms, the shotgun is a concept that has stretched throughout a hefty part of history, and the idea of firing multitude of shots from a single barrel actually predates the term shotgun. The earliest forms were muzzle-loaded firearms like the musket and blunderbuss, made famous of course by the popular myth of fighters loading a wide cone-shaped barrel with all sorts of nails, glass shards, or even silverware. In reality, you'd simply stuff your firearm with a cluster of lead balls, or shot, so evolved the nickname shotgun. As weapon technology advanced, this nickname became the de facto moniker for this type of firearm. The earliest appearance of said name appearing around the 19th century, but it's a name that has obviously stuck around throughout the history of the iconic weapon.
The more conventional shotgun, the sort of through-line development from, if we go backwards from modern shotguns, 12 bores or whatever, 18th century, you'll see side-by-side, double-barreled guns with flintlock mechanisms on them, and you load them with a flask of powder and a flask of shot of whatever size, so small shot for shooting birds, larger shot for shooting larger animals. Simple as that. And you would build your load in the gun, and you would have a sort of effectively a preferred recipe for doing that for shooting different types of game. So a shotgun is literally just a gun that fires shot. But after a while, it develops into this whole specialist world of firearms.
In the real world, shotguns grew into an incredibly versatile tool, being used from anything from recreational sport shooting and game hunting all the way through into military use. It became the go-to weapon for 1800 stagecoach guards, warding off bandits and baddies trying to plunder their cargo or horses, eventually this use creating the term riding shotgun. The shotgun then went through many periods of militarization, like within the First World War where the Winchester Model 1897 earned the nickname trench sweeper, or simply trench gun, for its effectiveness in trench warfare, resulting in an infamous point in the weapon's history where its use was promptly protested by the German Central Powers, calling its usage inhumane and prohibited by the law of war. So shotguns are a massive family of firearms, obviously very diverse. And we've seen examples of all of these in video games and movies, but can you take us through what each sort of type of shotgun is?
So starting from what's furthest away from me there, standard side-by-side, double-barrel shotgun. That would be recognisable to someone from the 18th century. They might wonder where the mechanism had gone. It's actually now hidden inside. Same basic configuration, nice wooden stock. Also, breaking the barrels doesn't just open it up to load, it also cocks the thing. And then a bit of leverage, which, by the way, is when people saw these off to do nefarious things, it becomes harder to load them.
It's not as easy as games make it out to be, is it?
And then we've got the Remington 870, the archetypal pump-action shotgun, 1950s vintage, pretty much, but it's still around today, still in production. But, you know, it has the advantage of manual operation, so you don't have to rely on a mechanism and therefore enough oomph, to use a technical term, from the cartridge to actually cycle it, because you're doing all the cycling with your own muscles. So it will always have that advantage.
And that's something you've brought up when we've talked about the Spaz 12, when we've been doing expert reacts, the fact that this is both pump action and semi-automatic. The pump action was for using those low power loads, but that's another one of the things that games sort of dance around. Games quite often go one of two ways, and it's like, no, this is a pump-action shotgun, or this is a semi-automatic shotgun.
Yeah, I guess as a a spin-off of that hybrid mechanism. Pump, not that many shotguns do, pump or semi. That gives you this very blocky, heavily vented forend that just makes it look way more sci-fi.
And then one with a big internal, is it a big internal revolving drum?
Yeah.
Of the striker.
This thing is basically wind up. So crank on the front, literally comedy wind up mechanism.
Doesn't play a song, annoyingly.
No, I won't wind it all the way. So interesting idea, Armsil, but maybe not that practical.
Again, it's one of those weapons that I think its life in video games so ridiculously outweighs its life in the real world.
Over in the world of video games, shotguns exist on a huge spectrum, but rarely do the virtual versions match up to how these weapons are used and how they perform in reality. While in the real world, combat shotguns have been largely phased out, they are still an essential entry into any video game arsenal, one that taps into a specific gameplay style and allows huge swings in the balance of gameplay mechanics and variety of play. And yet, somewhere along the line, they have become so disconnected to their real-world counterparts.
Much of this can be distilled down to three main tropes for most versions of a video game shotgun: range, rate of fire, and power.
First of all, their range. Of course, the sweet spot of the virtual shotgun is in close quarters, with shots of extreme proximity resulting in a one-shot kill, or in some more extreme cases, reducing enemies to a gibbed mess. Outside of spitting distance, however, they largely leave enemies all but mildly perturbed. Their rate of fire is also frequently tied to their shot power. A good rule of thumb is the faster a shotgun fires, or the more shells it holds, the weaker it will be. The classic double barrel being the peak of power with minimal shots, and rapid fire magazine fed shotguns making you work a little harder to add a kill to your scoreboard. That power has been seen countless times before in cinema, where we've seen cowboys and criminals alike thrown across rooms from a single exaggerated shot. But that sense of devastating force is very much tied to the identity of our video game shotguns.
Probably more than any other video game type of gun, I think the shotgun has been more of a parody. Certainly in early first-person shooters, which then of course set the trend for later games. Doom 2 in particular, with the super shotgun, the idea that a shotgun is inherently a spread of shot, which is true of course, but normally you design the gun or the choke on the end of the gun and the ammunition to create a certain size pattern at a certain distance. So in real life, the shotgun is much more finessed than we ever see in fiction. It isn't just video games. The shotgun has long been the boomstick. The Evil Dead boomstick sums it up. It's massive power at close range and a spread of shot that will, in the most extreme cases, kill everyone in the room or something.
However, the amped up destruction that comes with these shell slingers comes at a price, and it's the effective range and sometimes the shot spread of the weapon that is often the first thing to be sacrificed. For example, here in GTA 5, you can see the pellets of my shotgun just ceasing to exist over just a few meters, and then when the target comes back into the game's allowed range, suddenly they're making contact again. And if you take a shotgun from 2019's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, let's say the Model 680, this thing will do 208 damage to the chest within 3 meters, 101 damage between 5 to 50 meters, but extend that to just another meter more and the damage is now 1/4 of what it was up close. Anything beyond that, and the pellets from your buckshot pretty much cease to exist.
I remember back when Modern Warfare was released back in 2019, there was a lot of talk about the 7.25 being overpowered and having a ridiculous range.
Now, Call of Duty has always had at least one overpowered shotgun in their multiplayer, looking at you, Model 1887s, and while these may actually be closer to how the real-world shotguns perform, they obviously upset the status quo of our online lobbies and weapon balance.
So for that, their range is often pulled so far back that at longer distances, you're better off using harsh language against your enemies.
There's nothing more destructive than a shotgun at close range, but you can really push the range out by using a slug, especially if you use something like a rifled choke. So effectively a stick-on bit of barrel that has rifling in it that just gives enough of a twist to stabilize that slug a bit better. A slug being essentially a giant bullet that fires out of a shotgun, usually a 12 gauge. A shotgun, whether it's firing buckshot or a slug, is going to be absolutely lethal out to 100 meters or more. You just might struggle to hit what you're aiming at.
Variety in ammunition is something game designers have tapped into in an effort to make their in-game shotguns more versatile and stand out from the crowd. Slugs in particular are an ammo type that have started to become much more widely adopted into our video game shotguns, alongside the growing trend in virtual weapon customization. Of course, there is also ammunition that has much more of a life in video games than they do in reality. Things like flechette rounds, flashbang shells, or even the over-the-top flame-spewing dragon's breath ammo.
However, it has often felt that the addition of slugs to any video game shotgun has been sort of a band-aid fix to the issue of a shotgun's range.
There's still the trade-off between creating a pattern of hits with buckshot and having a margin of error, as each piece of shot is spread over your target as opposed to a singular slug that may be more difficult to make contact with, but rewards you with a lengthier range. There are games that walk the knife edge of firearm realism, however. Escape from Tarkov comes to mind, where just a single pellet of 8.5mm buckshot finding its way under your helmet can send you back to the respawn screen, even from a pretty impressive range. Other games let the shotgun exist as more of a tool as a weapon. Games like Insurgency Sandstorm, where you can blow off hinges, or Rainbow Six Siege, where rounds are used more to make a hole in drywall rather than the enemy team. But other than a few edge case examples, the shotgun is a one-trick pony. Admittedly, it's a pony with a heck of a kick to it, but back in the real world, it's closer to a jack of all trades.
So many games get the legendary shotgun wrong, and probably more often and more frequently than any other virtual firearm. But I think we as players have always known that.
And while other things like suppressors, scopes, and specific firearms are nitpicked and critiqued, something that I myself enjoy doing, we seem to give shotguns mostly a free pass and continue to enjoy their weird, malleable video game versions more so than the realistic ones. The close range punch of a shotgun encourages players to get into the thick of intense battles and firefights, whether that's getting cozy with a cacodemon in Doom Eternal or storming a foxhole in Battlefield 5. These up-close and personal firefights can create some of the most dynamic and tense shootouts in video games. Knowing that you can take down enemies with a single click or pull of a trigger, but also knowing that you're sowing enough chaos and are in the depths of such danger that you're just as likely to be on the receiving end of that one-hit kill.
And while the tropes of its range and the mysterious disappearing buckshot exist, the fact that it's a well-established element of video game shotguns means that it can bring a little balance to the arsenal of our favourite shooters.
Allowing players to get that intense close quarters battle where a single shot can fold an enemy in half, while dialing down the range in which the punch can be really felt. It breaks the monotony of automatic fire in our Call of Duty lobbies, and what tools are available to us when pushing an objective in Battlefield. And in these games and more, they can be one of the most satisfying weapons to use, or at least one of the most feared to come up against. Many times I stormed the corners of Battlefield's metro station, shotgun in hand and ready to fill my screen with the feedback of enemy killed. Sure, plenty of times I'd run into that lone roamer, and I'm sure they were thinking, why was he trying to shoot me from there with that? As they easily outranged me with rifle fire. But the times that I actually made into those backlines and threw shell after shell into the unsuspecting enemy team will remain some of the most fun I've had on that map. And I don't think those moments of gameplay would be possible without the shotgun in its specifically video game form.
I think we can all agree that the shotgun is one of the more iconic types of video game gun, and I think that's to do with what it represents in terms of destructive power. I always return to the super shotgun in Doom, and just the fact that you can take out an enemy with one shot, which will require, in a typical video game, will require something like a sniper rifle or a shotgun. Sometimes that's accompanied by graphic violence, sometimes less so, but you always have that visceral effect, the sound effect, some sort of big flash, a simulation of recoil, although obviously we can't physically feel that, and then the impact on target. Of course, highly informed by films and TV, where the victim will fly back, several feet. And I think anyone that's seen a shotgun used in popular culture, whether that's a Western or more of an action movie, kind of wants to replicate that experience in a video game, or at least that's probably where it got started.
In the 300-ish years since its conception, the shotgun has become an icon of all pop culture. So many fantasy weapons, handheld flat cannons or laser-slinging scatterguns can all be recognisable and tap into the same feeling you get when loading into levels of the pump action or double barrel. Halo's Z184 on a scattershot, Battlefront 2's Jawa CA87 shock blaster, or the vile, fleshy offering in Ebb Software's upcoming horror Scorn. Are these shotguns? No. But did they have some of that shotgun DNA and tap into the same feeling that the real ones do? Absolutely.
For the most part, I've always enjoyed experiencing a little of the reality behind these guns in my video games. Heck, that's half the reason I wanted to even make Loadout. But where the shotgun is concerned, I think I enjoy the spectrum that it exists on a little bit more.
It may be rarely represented in a way that's even close to reality, they may be tough to balance, and I'm sure that every Call of Duty release will still launch with that one rage-inducing overpowered shotgun. But for all its faults and its untapped features, the humble video game shotgun will never be any less super.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Loadout. If you enjoyed, please like the video and subscribe for more. And of course, you can reach out to me at @IrregularDave or let me know down in the comments below what else you'd like to see an episode on.
If you want more video game firearms content, you can watch the previous series of this show, or check out our weekly series of Expert Reacts, where I show our friends at the Royal Armouries a slew of guns to break down. And if you want to see an extended video of our shotgun chat with Jonathan from this episode, we'll have that up on the channel next week.
Until next time, I've been your host, Dave Jewitt. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.